Okay, we're ready to go.
All righty. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you all today. And we're going to try something new. We're going to try asking questions off the documents and off the budget itself, rather than have the agencies read to us. I just want to remind everybody that when we get to questions, we'd like to limit it to 2 questions on a first time around by folks, so that in case there are a lot of questions, that we have, that we are making sure that we're getting to everybody. And remember, you're all on YouTube. Unless you are speaking, please stay muted. And Representative Walker, do you have anything that you would like to say? I know she's on.
Sorry. Good morning, everybody, and I look forward to the discussion. So let's get rocking and rolling. Thank you, ma'am.
Senator Minor?
Same.
Representative France?
Same.
All righty then. First up is the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. Cheryl, if you want to introduce everybody that's here for your agency today. We all know you well, or most of us know you well, and so.
Senator, also, I'm sorry, maybe you want to introduce the subcommittee chairs just so that everybody knows who they're going to be working with.
Oh, my goodness. So I know, is it Mike on, I didn't write them all down. Mike for the House, Mike?
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct.
Senator Minor, who's on the subcommittee from you for this?
That's Senator Lesser.
Senator Lesser?
Oh, Senator Lesser, I knew. I was wondering about Senator Minor, who is from your caucus, who is on.
I do not remember, Madam Chairman. Maybe it would be easier if the administrator gave.
I would be happy to announce that Senator Minor is the ranking member of this subcommittee.
And who is the ranking member for the House? It's just easier to go to you, Sue.
Sure, and Representative Hayes is the ranking member for the House.
Very good. Cheryl, if you want to introduce your team, please.
Sure. So let me start by saying I'm honored to be here to introduce the Executive Director of the Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities, who is going to give our presentation. And her name is Tanya Hughes. She's been at the CHRO since 2013. And we have made so many gains and gotten rid of backlog and under her leadership. And so I'm honored to introduce her to the committee.
Well, very good. So I want you all to start raising your hands to ask questions. I'm going to start with a couple of questions on staffing. Can you tell us how many positions you have appropriated, how many positions you have filled, and where you stand on filling any vacancies that have already been approved?
Certainly. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tanya Hughes. We currently have 84 positions appropriated. We have 68 filled plus 2 temporary working assignments. So we have 70 filled positions. Cheryl, correct me if I'm wrong. We have several positions in the hopper. We're currently interviewing for 3 vacant positions, and we have another 8 vacant positions that need to be filled that were seemingly approved, but there's some additional work that needs to be done with respect to those positions.
Yeah, so just for clarification of positions, as Tanya said, we have 68 that are filled. We sought permission from the governor to bring in temporary worker retirees who had retired from the commission. We sought an extension or an exception to the rule that they could only serve for 2 years because we're in this pandemic and we wouldn't have to train them, and if they could stay on, and that was granted. They are, the 120-day temporary workers. And like Tanya indicated, we do have 3 positions that are in the recruitment, and we're interviewing people for those positions. And there seems to be, we were told different things. On the one hand, we were told that all of the positions that we put in for had been approved repeatedly, and then but it wasn't in writing. And then when we sought clarification in writing, then we got 2 different responses. One was that they're all approved, and the other was that they're waiting approval. So we don't know what the status is actually of those positions. We thought they were all approved, and that was 8 positions, like Tanya said. But we still, it's not clear to us. And so we're sorry we don't have any more definitive response than that. But that's what we were given, was a lack of clarity, I would say.
And of those two temps that were initially, those are 2 so-called 120-day workers?
Yeah, one is
okay.
an investigator and one is an administrative assistant in one of our business offices in Bridgeport, where you get a substantial number of complaints, and it requires a lot of administrative support there. So we have those 2 TWR positions there. One in Waterbury, that's the investigator, and then the administrative assistant is in Bridgeport.
Okay. And did you receive any COVID funds?
Yes, we did.
Okay, can you make sure we get the dollars that you received and where they went to?
Sure.
Thank you. Senator Minor, you have a couple of questions?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just following up on your questions, could you get us where the vacancies are that currently exist and what the classifications are of those individuals?
Yes. You
Please.
would like us to email that to you?
Well, I think that all of the requests that we make generally go to our administrator, if you would, and that way she can make sure even those of us that forget we're on this subcommittee can get a copy of it.
Great. We'll do it.
My other question has to do with, I was saying yesterday, we were having kind of an earlier presentation that there have been a number of presentations made before the Labor Committee about different classifications of individuals that are seeking relief from CHRO. As I guess, kind of a general point, could you tell me whether or not their interests are being accommodated within the current group of individuals that we currently have employed, or whether that requires additional staffing? Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Are you talking about the bills that are currently before that committee, whether there's a fiscal note on them?
Well, I'm talking about individuals that have perennially sought some coverage by CHRO. I'm not aware of which bills are before the Labor Committee.
Okay.
But, you and I have had these conversations in the past. I just don't know whether their needs are being serviced within the current headcount that you currently have, which is about 70, or whether that workload is technically what's being anticipated in the additional 14, by my count, of unfilled positions.
Some of the work is being covered by the current staff, while we need additional staff for some of the pending bills. So the disparity study, for example, will need additional help potentially there. Just for your records, there are 6 HRO trainee positions. There are 2 clerical positions, and they're refills. And then there is a legal attorney position. Those are of the 9 or 8 positions that we talked about earlier. And so
We've currently been able to maintain operations largely by making certain that we had protocols in place to accommodate COVID-19. And so we've been working largely telecommuting and conducting most of our operations via Teams and other electronic methods. However, we've had to utilize quite a bit of overtime to do so due to the fact that we have those unfilled positions. And we do anticipate some additional needs due to the current legislative agenda.
Because the way our budget has been set up, the work of the agency as it relates to enforcement requires an investigator or attorney to investigate, mediate, conduct fact findings and so forth. And then the general fund gets reimbursed by the federal government, whether it's the EEOC or HUD, for a percentage of the work that we do as a state, because we're a substantially equivalent agency to our federal sister agencies. And so when we don't have enough investigators, then it protracts the time it takes to get the work done. When we don't have enough investigators or attorneys, it takes longer to get complaints prosecuted through court, which then is to the detriment of our stakeholders, your constituents, because length of time means, more back pay, potentially more front pay, more interest on the damages. And for the complainant, it means, despair, them waiting to get a decision. And so that's why we always correlate the two, the work we can get done with the number of investigators. On average, an investigator can close about 45 to 50 cases in a year, along with the other duties that they have as an investigator. But it's important to note that every year we process about 4,600 complaints. In that, about 2,300 or so complaints are filed, and that number keeps going up and up and up. And we close about 2,300 complaints every year as well. So there's a steady influx, of complaints, and then there's us working on those complaints as expeditiously as we can, working with the legislature to streamline our process. Because I don't know, some of you have been on this committee for years or been at the legislature for years. When Tanya and I started in our roles, we had a backlog of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases that no longer exist because we have focused our attention on getting them done. But we do need the resources in order to be as effective as we can. And we're being called upon even more because we're one of the premier civil rights agencies in the nation to lend our assistance, voice, help, thoughts, and ideas as it relates to civil rights law enforcement across this country because of the past year that we've had and various movements and uprisings and so forth. So we're hoping that we will be able to refill all of the open positions and that we will be able to use all of the appropriated positions, all 84 of them, because then we will be able to function optimally, which is what we're looking to do.
And another critical position that we need in order to function optimally is an IT staffer. We don't currently have an IT person on staff, and we're utilizing one of our attorneys who has some exceptional skills, but it does take away from his ability to focus on his legal work. And he's happy to help us in any way he can, but it's taking its toll. And so we do need a dedicated staffer that's able to assist us with updating our database. We need to create a new database for our contract compliance unit. And we need some assistance with the functionality of our Office of Public Hearings.
Thank you. Senator Minor, are you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for CHRO? Okay, thank you very much for all the good work that you do. We certainly appreciate it, and we like hearing that we're the premier CHRO office across the nation. Good to know.
Can we just add one last comment? We set aside programs are on solid legal ground, and so we just wanted to make certain that that point was made.
And that is staffing that you need to complete that disparity study.
It's staffing, but it's also the disparity study. It needs to go out to bid. We need an RFP, the request for a proposal. It's a budget line item that we have tried to make clear. It's going to cost between $1.5 and $3 million to have the disparity study. But in the state of Connecticut, the last disparity study was done decades ago, almost 30 something years ago. And they're traditionally done every 5 years, so that you can know who is qualified to perform the work that's a minority business or small business. DAS and the CHRO are in discussions about this disparity study. It's important to them as well, as they certify companies as small businesses or minority businesses. And we feel like the state has to make it a priority. It's like with anything else, you want your dollar to turn over in your state before sending the money out of state. And so that's why the SBE program was developed to begin with. So it gives small business enterprises in Connecticut an opportunity to compete and bid on projects with that are state funded, with public works projects that are state funded, and it's our state of Connecticut's dollars. So it's important. The program will not withstand a constitutional challenge because the disparity study was done so long ago. And we don't actually know how many businesses that are minority-owned businesses, ethnic minorities, women-owned businesses, and disabled-owned businesses are out there and qualified to perform the various tasks that need to be performed for our state. When we build our small businesses and our minority businesses enterprises in the state, then it's better for our state economy. And it doesn't preclude, I've heard this argument before, it doesn't preclude, because we have a set-aside program here, the surrounding states, New York and New Jersey and Massachusetts and Rhode Island, they all have the set-aside program. They're just setting aside a small portion, like we are here in Connecticut, 25% for Connecticut-owned business. It doesn't preclude them from competing in other states. So it should be.
Thank you. And just for clarification on, and just for my own edification, do you include a component of Native Americans on your, when you look at disparity?
Yes, that's part of the classification. It's defined in statute as ethnic minority-owned businesses.
And they are?
Yes.
Yes, there are, but we don't know how many because we don't have the disparity study yet, but that they would be included.
They would be
Yeah.
counted, yes.
Thank you. Representative Nolan.
Good morning, and thank you, Senator Olson. I was just curious on how many staff are needed for the disparity study, do you think? And I didn't hear if you mentioned the estimate and what it would cost or that you're needing for it.
Okay, so it would be 2 staff, right, Tanya?
Yes, 2 staff, and the anticipated cost of the disparity study itself would be 1.5 to 3 million, we're estimating.
Okay, thank you.
Because there are about 5 firms that do this, nationwide, that are experts in preparing disparity studies. So, of course, they have the corner on the market. So it's, the cost is not small, but the benefit that will be derived from the disparity study is immeasurable.
Yes.
Senator Lesser.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And just as a reminder, a few years ago, I know the state spent some money via a public agency attempting to perform a disparity study. My sense is that was never completed. Do you have any information about that effort?
Yes.
Well, that study was conducted by CASE, and what they did was really, they had several phases to determine that a disparity study is needed. That was the result of their work. They concluded that we definitely need a disparity study.
Right. But we had already come to that conclusion when we sent the RFP out. So we just want to make sure that the study can actually occur and that it's in consultation with CHRO and with DAS, that we're intimately involved in the process of choosing who is going to conduct the study, because we're the subject matter experts in that area of of disparity, and DAS is the subject matter expert in the area of certifying businesses as small businesses or minority businesses in the state. They have their rubric or formula that they use to make that determination. And we look at, disparity and small businesses and whether or not they're complying with the contract compliance laws on public works contracts. And it's a very dense subject, and it's, there's a lot to kind of unpack, which is why it's important that we have a qualified firm or organization conduct the study who has a background in this type of area, because it's easy to get lost in the weeds, because believe me, there are a lot of weeds, but if you know how to tread through them, it makes the process of conducting the study much easier.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair, I just to be crystal clear, the only thing that came, obviously you and the DAS are subject matter experts and should be at the table. That makes sense to me. But the only thing that was useful that came out of the previous work by case is that we needed to have a disparity study. I thought we knew that to begin with. So is that what you're saying, that there's no other useful information that came out of that effort?
Yes, because it's not complete, and we need the statistical information. We need the information gathered and analyzed and disaggregated and then reaggregated, and none of that occurred because what happened was that they did some informational sessions and they heard anecdotal stories from contractors, subcontractors, primes, and so forth, general contractors. But we had already heard those same stories because we had held several public meetings where we were given that information, that people thought that they were being discriminated against, that there was this disparity, that there were all these qualified minority business enterprises, yet those businesses were not getting any of the public dollars on projects, and that people, ethnic minorities or women, were not being seen on construction projects across the state, and it was problematic. So we had already had that anecdotal information. I think that was in phase 3 of their report, so it wasn't something that we could use. What we need is to be able to go to court and say, here's the disparity. Here's statistical evidence that support that disparity.
Madam Chair, I'm having trouble hearing Ms. Sharp. I don't know if there's background noise or something, but I'm having trouble hearing Ms. Sharp's answer.
Okay.
Can you speak closely to your mic, please? Thank you.
I'm hearing some interference. I don't know if that's.
Okay, so what I was saying was that they had the 3 phases that I believe that, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars was paid, but phase 1 was to say that we needed a study, but we knew that we needed a study. Phase 2 was to say that we really need this study done, which we knew. And then phase 3 was the anecdotal stories from the meetings that were held with contractors and subcontractors and the like. But what we need, what DAS and CHRO need, is a study that has statistics, that aggregates and disaggregates information and data so that we can know who the qualified small business enterprises are and who the minority business enterprises are in the state. We need to know that the businesses are 51% held by a so-called minority owner. We need to know how much public works contracts are out there, what's available, and how they're being used, what the good faith effort is that's being made to utilize minority business enterprises. There's a host of things that we need to know so that there can be a fair distribution of these public works dollars. And we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars every year of construction that happens in Connecticut. And so the economic impact is deep, right? And it's stunning. It's stunning to people of color, ethnic minorities. It's stunning to women. It's stunning to our taxpayers, which is why I talked about turning over our own dollar, our Connecticut dollar, more than one time before we send it out of state and bring in some, these large contractors from out of state.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none?
I Senator Austin, I just want to chime in real quick. This is McCrory.
I know who you are. We all know who you are, Doug.
That's good. Good. I'm glad you guys know. You're gonna feel me too. So, Ms. Sharp, I appreciate all the work you're doing. Tanya, all the work you guys are doing. I think a disparity study is the #1 priority, should be for this administration. I think that's what we need to be doing. I'm glad Senator Lesser asked about the $500,000, in my opinion, that we wasted about 5-6 years ago on this. It should have never been done. But what we do need is a disparity study so that we know where we are in the state, what the capacity we have for minority businesses in this state. And I'm going to effort that and continue the great work you guys are doing. And I'll be in touch with you. I think what you guys are headed in the right direction, and you need the support to bring Connecticut to a 21st century state where everyone have opportunities. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your support.
Thank you very much. So at 10:30, in 3 minutes, we will start with Department of Consumer Protection so we can get that ready. So we will start directly at 10:30. Thank you very much, ladies, for coming in today. We appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
So good morning, Commissioner. It's a pleasure to see you today, and appreciate we're trying something new by asking questions directly. So I would ask members to start putting your hand up in the chat so that we can have questions. We're talking with the Department of Consumer Protection. Commissioner, could you please introduce your staff that are with you here today?
Yes, good morning, Senator Austin, Senator Minor, Representative Walker in France, and honorable members of the Appropriations Committee. Michelle Siegel, Commissioner of the Department of Consumer Protection. With me are our Deputy Commissioner, Arunan Arulampalan, our Legislative Director, Leslie O'Brien, Marie Stearns, who oversees our business office, and Paul Felix. We're a smart agency and he supports our budget on the DAS end. And thank you all for giving me the opportunity and giving us the opportunity to testify in support of Governor Lamont's proposed budget.
So thank you very much for coming, Commissioner. I'm going to kick it off with a couple of questions vis-a-vis staffing. Can you tell me how many staff that you have appropriated? How many of those appropriated positions have been filled? And where do you stand on refilling positions?
We have 222 positions for this year. We have a handful of vacancies that are in various phases of a number of them of being refilled.
If you could get me the exact number, that would be really great, of those positions that we have put dollars in, those positions that have been, those positions that are filled, and how many vacancies you have. And do you have, are you in the interview process? Have those positions been approved to be filled? That would be helpful. And
yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And then that leads me to my second question, and we're sticking to the two questions. And first up after me will be Senator Lesser. Do you have the appropriate amount of staff for two large policies in the governor's budget vis-a-vis recreational marijuana and an increase in sports betting, online gaming, on iKeno, and iLottery?
So with regard to cannabis, yes, the budget anticipates us having potentially up to 64 new positions, and we've worked closely with the governor's office and OPM, and that would be sufficient for us to regulate that market based on sort of how it's outlined in the proposed governor's bill. With regard to gaming, it was a bit premature for us to put in a fiscal note on that. There are still ongoing negotiations, and for us to fully assess what our staffing needs are going to be, we'll need to see how those negotiations play out, what the ultimate sort of framework for expanded gaming is going to look like.
So if I could, so the governor is comfortable with figuring out recreational marijuana positions, but not close enough to figuring out what the gaming position counts would be?
Well, our cannabis positions are tied kind of in conjunction with basically a fiscal note with the governor's proposed bill. At this point, there isn't a proposed bill yet from the governor's office on gaming, and whatever bill they ultimately may put together based on the status of negotiations and how that plays out, we would expect to work with them to discuss what our needs would be to accomplish the expectations of that bill.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Senator Lesser, followed by Representative Belinsky.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And following up on your questions through you to the Commissioner, I think OFA, trying to understand obviously the significant staffing increase that you're going to need to implement recreational marijuana, I think they were able to document most of the positions, but they had some questions about some of them. And I was just hoping you could work with us to make sure we understand where, the extent to which each of those positions is necessary. I think OFA has a lot of that, but I don't know if they have all of that at this point.
Okay. Broadly speaking, they kind of fall into 6 or 7 buckets. So one, there's going to be a huge amount of licensing work. So we're talking both the conversion of existing medical businesses. There's 22 of those between producers and dispensaries that may convert over to be hybrid. So that's a lot of work. Aside, it's not just a licensing thing. We need them to come up with a game plan to preserve the medical system and figure out how are they going to adjust to serve adult use customers while also serving their the patients. So there's going to be a lot of work in terms of inspections and looking at licensing. In addition, there's 8 different license types anticipated in the bill. So that could lead to anywhere 80 to 100 new businesses. Each of them will presumably have employees. So we're going to be talking, just within that first year, putting out lottery and applications for, all of those businesses possibly having thousands of employees then coming in to be licensed and registered. So we need it, and it's all happening at the same time. This isn't like other industries that exist and a few businesses leave, some new ones come in. This will be all happening at once. So we need robust licensing staff. So that's a big piece of it. Investigations is another large chunk, both as complaints come in, problems arise, but also just as part of the licensing function, we will need people going out there confirming that everything is set up to ensure that we're protecting against diversion for the places that are growing, that it's set up in a way where products will be manufactured in a way that's safe. We won't have adulteration. Coming with that is another about 5 staff to handle the legal work that will flow from that. To the extent there are problems, there are enforcement actions, issues that can't be resolved quickly. We are going to have a small group, about 5, to handle lab testing product safety. We need to be able, this is not like a traditional product where you have sort of an FDA federal overlay ensuring product safety. So we need to be making sure that people who are eating or in some cases are smoking these products, that it's safe. And so we need some people to handle that. There'll be a lot of work to deal with data. So to track products, both to prevent diversion, to ensure revenues are taken care of. We're going to have a seed to sale tracking system. So now we're going to have all these businesses trying to feed into the system, and there's going to be a lot of work of making sure that works okay, that reporting that people need can be handled. There'll be some general administrative work. We need a few people just answering phones. We're going to get a lot of questions. We're going to get a lot of consumer possibly complaints. We're going to have businesses calling in with questions. We'll need somebody to help with some of the budgeting work and IT work that's going to come with setting up these new systems. So it's sort of a collection of all of this. This is, we're not just kind of building on something so much that already exists. We're really establishing an entirely new industry, entirely new supply chain. So there will be an enormous amount of work, and there's a hope to really launch it quickly.
Great, thank you. And where through the chair to the commissioner, where are the 4 positions that you've eliminated? I know that they're unfilled, but I didn't know if you had specific information about those positions. And if you don't have that, get that offline.
Yeah, there's a handful that hadn't been filled. So one was involved in off-track betting work, another in some of the liquor licensing. Another was actually a member of the commissioner office staff who took another job with the state, and we think we're doing okay with the current staff we have there. And another was also somebody in licensing. She actually was in licensing, was promoted, but that position wasn't being backfilled. It's kind of a function of how much that work has moved online, that we need higher level licensing staff, a little fewer clerical staff in that area.
Great. Thank you very much. That's all I have. And would yield back to the chair.
Thank you, Senator Lesser. Next up is Representative Belinsky, followed by Senator McCrory.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question for the commissioner here is, when it comes to the cannabis regulation, it seems like an awfully big hill to climb with just diving in with 64 people. So I'd like to see, exactly where we're deploying those resources, and also consider and learn how many people we have currently on staff that do tobacco regulation, because with tobacco sales on the decline, I'm wondering if perhaps there's the opportunity to redeploy some of those assets and have people who already know the regulation game get involved in a new and greater demand area.
We don't really regulate tobacco, so within DCP, we would not have staff to redeploy in the way you're suggesting. But also, this industry is going to be regulated in a much different way than tobacco. There's going to be just the growing the plants part that's all being because what we have here is a product that federally is still illegal, although it would become legal at the state level. So we're going to have, to take full responsibility within the state for regulating the growing facilities. These products are going to be converted into foods and other things. So we will have like a product safety component tied to that. We want to make sure if it's getting into food that it meets the same safety you expect of other food that doesn't have cannabis as an ingredient. Similar with other products that may exist. There's things like tinctures, which are, liquid that people can like put in, mix with a drink or other food to create things. So there's a lot of work there that just doesn't come with tobacco. Similarly, we don't regulate and worry about diversion of tobacco products, being sold. We don't license and restrict sales in the same way we are with cannabis, where we're going to have a limited number of retail outlets that would be able to sell this product. So it will be a significantly different type of regulatory structure.
Okay, well, that's a great answer. Thank you very much. I'd like to learn more about the structure of it. Also, I'd like to know, did in the formation of this budget request, did we take a look at what our neighbors to the north in Massachusetts did and how they structured, their regulatory activities? And I'd also appreciate, having the subcommittee know, the headcount up in Massachusetts and how our new business is going to be scaled relative to that, and that would teach us a lot about best practice, I think.
Okay, we are certainly talking with all of our other states, the ones that have launched programs, the ones that are contemplating it, like New York and Rhode Island. So we have tried to learn from those that already have a program, tried to understand what new places that are going to come on board are thinking about. So we have done that work, and we're happy to kind of meet with you and go through some of the details. But what we're planning is in line, and in some instances, I think we're staffing not as aggressively as some other states, although we're also smaller in size than a Massachusetts or New York.
Yes. Acknowledge that. That's why I think it's important to just sort of take a look and understand where we fit in the scaling factor with this. My concern is that we're going to not make and this is not an appropriations problem, but my concern is we're not going to make the revenue forecasted, and we're going to, consume what we do make, in various appropriations to the regulation and enforcement of this product. So love to see, all of the information that went into the decision making here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Belinsky. Up next is Senator McCrory, followed by Senator Minor.
Commissioner, how you doing this morning? Quick question. How many employees do you currently have at DCP?
222.
Okay, and you're looking
it fluctuates
to add,
a little with retirements and new hires, but it's right around there.
And you're looking, and with this legislation, you're looking to add another additional 64 to handle the cannabis issue, right?
Yes.
My question would be, you mentioned about the growers, and if we're looking to scale up and get this up and running in a year, has there been agreement by the Department of Consumer Protection or the administration so that the current growers of cannabis are going to be also the same current growers if we can go recreational?
The way the bill is drafted, yeah, it would anticipate that they would have an opportunity to convert to be growers that could sell both into the medical and into the recreational market.
Currently, do you have any ethnic minorities growing cannabis in Connecticut?
We actually don't collect data on who all the backers and employees are in terms of that sort of demographic thing. I definitely understand social equity is a challenge in Connecticut and nationwide with this. So your point is well taken, and I know the governor's bill sort of talks about social equity. I can't though speak to literally every single, there's a lot of backers, a lot of investors, and a lot of employees. So I don't know what all those demographics are for all of them.
So what you're saying, we don't know the demographics of the individuals who are the owners of these companies that produce that. We don't know who they are, but they had to go through a background check. I'm sure they went through DC, you guys did your homework on them when you approved them, but you don't know who they are as far as demographics are concerned.
We know who, yeah, we know who they are, their names and whatever. What we don't ask on the applications is for them to provide us their racial background or I mean, you can often tell by a name, but their gender, those sort of information is not asked on the licenses, so applications. So I wouldn't be able to run a report to pull that information. But I mean, I'm not going to pretend that we have a widely diverse market. I probably don't. So, but I can't speak to the level of detail of exactly how it plays out.
I just want to be clear with the understanding that there is an agreement, or allegedly in the bill, that the current growers will be the future growers as of currently right now, which could fall into a little issue around equity, as you understand that. So I just want to be clear that that is initially what is being proposed in this legislation for those who are doing the growing, producing right now, to continue to be that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator McCrory. Next up is Senator Minor, followed by Representative Nolan.
Thank you. So I wanted to follow up on the I guess the questioning around the conversion from what we currently have to what is proposed in the governor's budget. If we grant priority status to individuals that we've already done our due diligence on, is it conceivable that we would have otherwise kind of lapsed out some positions because they'll be double counted, so to speak? That we may not need the same individuals or more individuals if those same persons are known to us, the facility is known to us, the work is known to us, yet they're filling in essence another license.
We would still expect, right now we have a medical market that serves about 50,000 patients. We would expect an adult use market to be much larger. We also envision a number of different license types that simply don't exist now. So food manufacturers, product manufacturers, labeling and packaging companies, delivery services. So right now we have a very linear supply chain. You have the producers who grow and the dispensaries who are the refill. There's also only 18 dispensary facilities. So it's unclear how many of them would convert to hybrid to sell to an adult use market. It may in part depend on what the zoning rules in their locations look like. We would certainly need more than that to address an adult use market where you're going to have well more than 50,000 customers, I would expect.
And so I guess to stay on somewhat of a theme of Senator McCrory's questions, if we grant priority status to the current growers, what's the likelihood that we will cast a broader net early on to provide opportunity for people that don't currently have opportunity under the governor's bill?
We would expect, so we have those 8 different license types that are kind of outlined in the bill, which I've sort of listed off. We would expect, if the bill passes shortly after passage, to put out applications so people could begin applying, and then we would add more businesses in all those categories. So there's anticipated to be cultivators, which could be larger growers, also micro cultivators. So that may create a smaller business opportunity for people who maybe only want to have a few thousand square feet of grow space. There'll be retailers, again, the food and product manufacturers, delivery, even packaging and labeling. Our expectation and the reason we need to staff up quickly is that we would put out applications pretty shortly, within months of the bill passing, over that summer or into the early fall, start getting applications in and reviewing them to try to have these new businesses come on board as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a couple of other questions, but I'll wait till the end.
Thank you, Senator Minor. Representative Nolan, followed by Representative Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioner. I got to piggyback off of what the senator was talking about, Senator Batory, in regards to the demographics. It's very disappointing that we're waiting until a bill passes to decide to allow or to have representation from the Black and Brown community that would be able to participate in just as much as those that are growing and in the position to do so right now. So is there any discussion in regards to a mandated required of growers or of those that open up businesses that would be set aside for minorities?
I mean, all of that is sort of thought through in this bill in ways. Right now, I don't have sort of the legal authority to mandate that or enforce that. And that's the challenge we have. So I'm not going to sit here and say social equity isn't an issue and that it's not one we're struggling with in Connecticut or elsewhere in the country. It's been really hard. A lot of other states have tried to address it with mixed results, certainly. And so this bill addresses it, but we would need a law, and it would need to very clearly outline kind of who qualifies as a social equity applicant. And there have been, even some discussions or variations in how that is worked out, and then some clear guidelines as to what the businesses need to do to meet those requirements. And then we need the teeth to enforce that. And right now, without a law, it just doesn't exist.
Okay. So is that something that was looked into in regards to this issue?
Yeah, so that's certainly a piece of the governor's bill, and in fact, an entire sort of social equity committee that is being developed specifically to address these issues, to sort of think through who is a social equity applicant. And it goes into bigger issues in terms of, we need the access to capital and some challenges around that to be addressed. So there's a lot that goes into this. There's been an informal task force sort of thinking through these issues with the governor's office, with representatives from our staff and others. And then some of the ideas that arose from those discussions now found their way into the bill and this creation of a social equity commission.
Okay, I understand that, but it seems like it seems like this would have been a really important topic, especially with the things that went on in the last year before something was put before us, that there would have been some importance to make sure that this was displayed in the bill in a more appropriate manner. Because right now it looks like that it's that the Black and Brown community is a second tier to those who already have this opportunity, and it just makes the disparity even bigger, especially when we know that the issue is there and we move forward without making sure that we have that equality in there to make sure that this question doesn't come up without an active solution that we're ready to move with. Could you explain what kind of law that you would need to have created in order for that to happen? And if you have that language ready to go?
Well, the law would first have to define who counts as qualifies as a social equity applicant. Some states do it based on conviction, based on sort of demographically where you live. Some try to tie it to specific race. Some tie it to whether you or maybe a family member has had certain types of convictions. Some broaden it and may include vets or other groups. So that's first and foremost would need to be there. Then kind of what has to happen, what percent ownership, what happens when somebody sells, what if an investor wants to leave, if it's about hiring, how does that work when somebody quits their job and now the numbers don't match up. A lot of states have tried it. It's definitely something that needs to be addressed. It's complicated, and so what the bill envisions is setting up a commission specifically to look at all the different things that need to go into this, so that language could be drafted that discusses it all in a way that works, learning from what other states have tried and maybe have found actually didn't work as well as kind of was expected when language was drafted.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, Representative. I just want to make sure that we're getting back into the budget part of things and not necessarily the policy part. I do find this to be enlightening, but we have 2 minutes left with this particular commissioner, and we have another commissioner coming in right after that. So I just want to make sure that we're doing that. We have 2 more people that have questions. So do you have any other questions vis-a-vis the budget, Representative?
Yeah,
I think you froze.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not hearing.
Not you. Yeah, I think he froze. Representative Nolan, can you hear us? Representative Hall, do you have any questions for the commissioner?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just you touched on it briefly, Commissioner, in regards to what our neighbors have done and how they have structured their programs for cannabis. Our neighbors to the north are probably our closest and probably closest to what we're looking to do, I imagine. When they first propped up their recreational marijuana, did you look at the numbers that they started with for employees? And how does that compare to what we're doing? So specifically to Massachusetts, I know you said our neighbors to the south and east of us are considering it, but obviously they don't have the programs that Massachusetts does. So my question goes directly to Mass. What did they do for their new division for their recreational marijuana program?
They have significantly more than us, but they're a larger state. But yeah, we did look at it, but we looked more specifically, what do we need to do and how do we need to do it? I'm not quite sure how much of the information they provided to us they were anticipating we would keep confidential. So I'm trying not to go too far into some of the stuff they may have been telling us kind of in conversations. But we come in with significantly fewer than Massachusetts. But we do think it's a sufficient number based on our size. And I know we're running out on time, but if there is time and there's some other questions, Arunan is here and he was on the social equity task force that informally was sort of developed to help inform what's in the statute. So if time permits, he may have some, be able to kind of illuminate more and better than I was able to on those issues.
So just a quick indulgence, Madam Chair. So if we could get some hard numbers on if we've talked to Massachusetts and I understand our program is smaller, it might be a good kind of comparison to get a rough template of what they have compared to what we're looking to do. I'd be interested in seeing specific numbers. And also, I know we're trying to stay on budget, but the social equity piece, did Massachusetts do something that we are looking to do in our bill in regards to social equity? I'd like to know if they did, how did they move forward with it? And also, I know this is 3, Madam Chair, and I don't expect an answer right now. I'll just ask for the information to come to me. But in specifics, the process of application. So this goes to some of the social equity questions I have. Can you maybe give us, not now obviously, but in some sort of email, what the actual application process looks like for somebody to actually get their license? Just, it might give us some direction as to how we can work around some of these issues we're talking about. So thank you. Thank you for your indulgence, Madam Chair. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Representative Hall. And Commissioner, we're not going to get into the equity issue right now. I think that if the Deputy Commissioner is willing, maybe we could carve some time out where we would be able to delve into the equity issue on a much larger basis. I can clearly see that there are a number of people who would like to understand a little bit better what's in the governor's bill on cannabis, but how that is going to impact the budget component. But if the committee is willing to do so, I think we could set up some time after we finish our agency briefings on this equity issue, because this bill is going to generate a lot of comments and concerns. And any responses to anybody's questions, if you wouldn't mind sending them to our administrator, Susan Keene, that would be great. So maybe we can set that time up at a time when it's good for the Deputy Commissioner, if that's okay with you, Commissioner.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely want to answer all these questions in the short time allotted here. I know I'm not able to do that to probably anybody's total satisfaction. So I do think a dedicated meeting would be appropriate.
I think that that's much better. Senator Minor, you had a couple of more questions. I'm
I'll
assuming that they
limit
revolve around the budget.
They do, Madam Chairman. I'll leave it to just one. So what portion of the head count is dedicated to a personal grow option that is part of the cannabis bill in many states? I'm not sure how broadly the governor's bill anticipates residents in the state of Connecticut being able to grow their own, but I certainly think if we're talking about equity, I would imagine that for those that have limited resources, that option is important. So what's the head count allocated to the personal grow option?
At this point, the governor's bill does not allow for individuals to grow, so we don't have any staff dedicated to doing that. What it does, though, is we are to report out and on a number of things, one of which is the sort of whether it makes sense to, in future iterations of this industry, allow individual growth. So to the extent that becomes a recommendation in the policy of the state, then we would have to figure out head count at that point.
Thank you. So just maybe in advance of that, if you could provide us some detail as to what other states have allocated for that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Minor. Commissioner, I want to thank you for coming today. I know that there are people that want to talk a lot more about the equity component of it, and so I'll ask our administrator to reach out to set up a meeting to have this larger conversation vis-a-vis equity, where we can delve into it a little bit deeper. It probably won't be until after we finish the agency briefings. And so we'll let you know about that. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Representative Massa, if you want to take the reins for a minute. Our next group up is the Office of the Healthcare Advocate, and then we take a lunch break. So wouldn't mind, sir?
Absolutely, Madam Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm in the process of admitting the OHA team. So give us just a moment.
Pause for a second.
We are ready. The OHA team has joined us.
Excellent.
Mr. Chair, I'm in the process.
All right, I think we're good. So, Mr. Doolittle, are you with us?
Yes, sir, I am.
Excellent. Can you just introduce your staff you have on the call, and then we're going to jump right into questions. But if you want to introduce your staff.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Administrator.
Thank you, Senator Minor. And I first want to, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, Madam Administrator.
Thank you, Senator Minor. And I first want to.
I think, if I may, I think someone has either CTN or YouTube Live on, and so we're getting that. So if anybody has YouTube Live or CTN on, close it for now, and I think our issue will be solved.
Okay, great. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
You're good. Yeah, you're good now, Ted. Thank you.
Okay, first I want to apologize for my casual attire. I had some surgery yesterday and I found that my bandage would not go through my dress shirt. So I apologize very much for that. You certainly deserve a jacket and tie, and I expected to be thus attired, but wasn't able to do that. So with me today, I have Sean King, who is our senior staff attorney. I have Valerie Wizakowski, who is our senior manager, health care advocate program manager, and also staff attorney Adam Prizio.
Excellent. Thank you. So the way we've been running these a little different than past years, we're going to open it right up to committee members who may have questions for you. That being said, it's up here. Senator Lesser.
Yes, thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And through you to Mr. Doolittle. Well, it's good to see you, Ted, and hope you're recovering well from your surgery. The big change that I see in your budget, the only one I saw was that you removed to the, you changed locations and you're now housed physically within the insurance department?
Yes,
right?
we have, that's right. We have a portion of a floor there. We had been at 450 Capitol Avenue. Now we've moved over to the G Fox building. We were requested to make that move because of expansion of the OPM team that is housed in 450 Capitol. And so we moved here like 6 weeks before the lockdown.
And does that move through you, Mr. Chairman, does that affect your ability to fulfill your operations in any respect? Has that had any impact?
No, it has not.
And I know this, but just as a reminder for members of the committee, you're entirely funded from the insurance fund, so there's no general fund impact from your budget line item, is that right?
That is correct, sir.
And how much do you have numbers on how much you've been able to recover for insurance policy holders, this past year? Is that something that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the presentation that we provided on page 7 gives a chart. Our budget is for this year was 3.3 million, and we saved consumers in the 2020 calendar year approximately $8 million. And that brings the total, lifetime total for OHA since its inception in 1999 to around $120 million saved by consumers of the state.
Thank you, Ted, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely, Senator. Any other questions from members of the subcommittee? Now, Mr. Doolittle, looks like you may get off light. Is there anything you would like to mention to the committee on your regards to your budget?
Not with regards to the budget.
Very good, sir. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And then we will take a brief recess for lunch. We will reconvene at 1 o'clock with General Yvonne in the military department. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you at 1. We'll take a brief recess.
Thanks for your time.